I don't think I have been, and I missed that one
Yeah.
last week.
All right. We'll make sure. Okay.
Gotcha. I appreciate that.
Did you get a copy of the internal pieces?
I did get that. Thank you.
Good. Just want to
I appreciate that.
All right.
When is the next meeting?
I think
If you know off the top of your head.
I think we're having one Thursday. In fact, I think we're going to try to start meeting a little more often.
Got it.
Because there's a need for a bit more interaction instead of these solved silos.
And Amber Johnson is the contact?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
I'll shoot her a quick email right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
I think I need to hire a staffer like yourself. I think that's the best idea I've ever heard.
It works.
Make sure.
It works.
I asked my wife.
Not all of us are as wealthy as Councilmember Gregory to hire just a private assistant to take care of city council business.
It's just being practical. It doesn't have anything to do with anything.
It has anything to do with money. Come on.
No, I've got other things to do.
I asked my wife, and she said I couldn't afford her.
Susan, does
Gregory, I don't think we have a circ scheduled.
Pardon?
We don't have a circ scheduled, but I got a notice for it. I don't think.
Right.
For Thursday.
Does Bill Craver or Capers Bar need to be on the call?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Carol, I'll check on that. I may have the wrong date, okay? How you doing?
Yeah, Thursday we have community.
Fine.
Yeah.
Councilmember Gregory, let me jump in here and say, and your assistant is the nicest, most pleasant person in the world, too.
Thank you very much. She's not that way with me, but.
That's because you probably earned it.
I was going to say she takes after Councilman Gregory, being nice and helpful.
I'm going to tell her you said that.
Yeah.
And we're on YouTube too, so it's live.
Okay.
I think it's necessary.
Yeah. You know, since we can't afford to give council members, you know, any more staff in our clerk of council's office to take care of some of this stuff, well, you got to do it yourself. A lot of other municipalities operate a little differently in terms of staffing.
And I think, I think the only one we are missing right now is Councilmember Waring, unless Bethany or Velvet may have signed him on. But I think everyone else is on.
Okay.
I'm here, Jennifer.
Okay. Hey, Councilmember, I'm sorry.
No problem.
All right. Well, we have everyone on then.
Okay. The Committee on Ways and Means, January 26, 2021, is now called to order. And I'd like to call on Councilmember Seekings for our invocation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, bless us all and keep us under your wing. May your divinity shine on us and fill us with your grace. Allow us to feel your presence as we set about in our duties, mindful of your humble guidance. For those in need or feeling the effects of ill health, we pray for your gentle hand of relief and recovery. Let us strive together and with your guidance to make a better world. Amen.
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 Item number 2, December 1st and January 12th minutes. Do I hear a motion?
Move for approval.
A second.
And so I'm sorry, this is just for January 12th.
Okay, for January 12th, do I hear a motion?
Move for approval. January 12th.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Bids and purchases?
Move for approval.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 The ayes have it. Item number 4, the mayor's
I move
office
for approval.
Second.
moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? All in
Mr.
favor?
Chairman,
Yes, Mayor Tecklenburg.
I did just want to share with council and with and the public that the great benefit that comes out of the city's involvement with this program. We basically help to position 25 full-time energetic, committed young people to work in a variety of nonprofits in our area, mostly in the city, but in our region, including such groups as Florence Crittenham, Low Country Food Bank, Camp Happy Days, Carolina Youth Development, Be a Mentor, Charleston Hope, Charles Children's Museum, the list goes on. And I just thought it's such a nice thing. I thought I would share that with everybody.
Appreciate it. Any more comments?
Yes, I do, Chair.
Yes.
Just wanted to add to Mayor's recognition of the VISTA program. My school district, many organizations have been at the tail end of what they've provided. And I've actually hired a lot of the folks that worked as VISTAs in my after-school program as staff, and they've stayed here in Charleston. So I just want to say it's a great program and we should continue to support it.
Any more discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, the ayes have it. Item number 5, Parks
Move for
Capital
approval.
Project,
Second.
moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 The ayes have it. Item number 6,
Move for approval.
Second.
Second,
moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Nay, the ayes have it. Item number 7.
Move for approval.
I'll second.
Could you pull up the screen for me, Madam Clerk, to item 7? Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I might just very briefly, I just want to thank staff, Matt Fountain, Frank Newham, all those have worked really hard. This is on the low battery phase 2. If you have not been down to the low battery and seen phase 1, which will reach substantial completion if the weather goes okay this week, it is really fantastic and transformative. It is repairing an old seawall built in the early 1900s. It is helping us with sea level rise and tidal rise and some storm surge. It's an incredible project that came in on time and on schedule. We worked with our partner, Charleston Water System. Thank you, Chairman Waring and Mayor Tecklenburg, for your service on that. And about $1 million of the first phase was paid for by them. Phase 2 is coming right behind it. The bids came right in on the number that we believe they to be. So this is a project that is going, knock on wood, according to plan. Phase 2 out of either 4 or 5 rolling along. So I want to thank my fellow council members. We've put money aside for this for almost a decade. And I would just encourage all of you to go down and take a look and see the fruits of y'all's labor and the labor of our engineering department, which is fantastic. So thank you for your support on this, and more to come.
Thank you for that comment. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Nays, the ayes have it. Item 8, Housing and Community Development, Mayor and City
Move for
Council.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on item 8? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 9,
Move for
Stormwater
approval.
Management.
Second.
Second,
Moved and properly seconded.
Mr. Chairman, can I interject very briefly?
Yes, Matt?
Yeah, thank you. This one, we just need a very minor amendment on the construction contract. That I'd like to just read into the record that CWS has a number of 8-inch gaskets in their line item bid. They've requested us to reduce the quantity from 32 to 23 gaskets. That would change the contract by reducing the CWS reimbursable portion of the contract by $1,764.63. Total bid would be revised to $5,265,210.29. No change to lowest bidder or other impact of the project. Contractors aware of the adjustment. I just like the council to propose or consider a motion for the amended language.
Move for approval of the amendment.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we amend item number 9 based on the information supplied to us by Mr. Fountain. All in favor, say aye.
Mr.
Aye.
Chairman, I want to interject on here. I just want to thank everybody on this council to give special attention to getting the support of Councilmember Mitchell on this item right here. It was it was hard work getting him to support this one right here. But anyway, thank you, Councilman Mitchell.
Yeah, right.
Well, let me clear that up for the public. Councilman Mitchell's been working on this one for decades, so.
And we can't leave out Councilmember Lewis.
Councilmember Lewis, that's right, that's been going on. This was in the 1984 Davis and Floyd drainage report. So it's finally getting fixed. So
yes,
congratulations to all.
Okay, next is Councilman Mitchell and then Mayor Tecklenburg.
Oh, I'm good. I was going to mention former Councilman Lewis, that he was fighting for this a long time along with myself. So I just wanted to recognize that he started a long time ago before I was there. You know.
I agree.
Okay.
You're right. You're right.
Mayor Tecklenburg.
Mr. Chairman, and my thanks also go out to everyone involved in getting these drainage projects going, the low battery seawall and the intersection of King and Hugie Street. So today we're approving well over $17 million worth of commitment to further drainage improvements in our city. And I think that's a big step. And also, Mr. Chairman, if you will, in advance of number 10, on the next item on the agenda, I would like to recuse myself from that item, even though there is no funding involved. One of my sons is now in the landscaping business, and he will be watering and maintaining the flowers and the flower baskets, and I'd like to recuse myself.
No problem. Duly noted.
And just as a reminder, can everyone please keep their mics on mute during the meeting? Thank you.
Okay, and we never completed the vote on number 9. I did ask all in favor, and I think the majority.
Mr. Chairman, one last thing on item 9.
Yeah.
And I know the mayor said it in Public Works, but it's worth saying again. Please pay attention to the 1.856 million in there that CWS is going to contribute towards this drainage project on it's King and Hugie Street. I mean, the relationship between CWS and the city, the hand and glove relationship is marvelous. In other words, and the people win when that happens, as opposed to we're used to government entities not communicating and in some cases going in opposite directions from one another. But this coming together pays dividends and benefits to, frankly, the citizens. So that please pay attention to that, because in years past we didn't have all of it.
And I think Councilmember Waring, a lot of that could be contributed to you since you've been on that commission.
Well, and I'll have to share it with the mayor as well. I mean, we got a lot of relationships there, and you all do too. So we don't go there by ourselves. By the same token, when they have come to us, I've never seen a vote with CWS that wasn't unanimous. So the relationship is beneficial both ways, but it's certainly worth highlighting in particular for the public to know as well.
And
Thank you.
I just reemphasize my point that a lot of it is contributed to you and your work, and we really appreciate it. Now we have to complete the vote on 9.
Okay, fine. Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir. I hear you.
All right, just let me ask again. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 10, the mayor has recused himself from this one.
Move for approval.
I second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 The ayes have it. I turn to Council Member and Chairman Shea.
Thank you, Councilmember Gregory. And we're on the real estate meeting which was held yesterday afternoon. A marathon meeting that we consider several items. The first item for consideration is item number A, approval to authorize the mayor to execute on behalf of the city a transfer agreement conveying 36 Cooper Street to Charleston County Human Services. That was approved unanimously, and I so move that, and I can do these one by one, Mr. Chairman. I think it make things go easier. But there are going to be 4 more units, affordable housing units on this property. And I would ask that we approve item number A.
Second, Mr. Mayor. Second, Mr. Chairman.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on 11A? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 The ayes have it.
Item B was deferred, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Item C was also regarding a request for easement to Dominion Energy to relocate a switch gearbox, and that we had a discussion on that, and we moved for that to be approved as well. So we asked that council approve item C as well.
Second, Mr. Mayor. I mean, Mr. Chairman, I keep saying Mr. Mayor. Second, Mr. Chairman.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
All right, and then on item number D, a resolution authorizing the mayor to take necessary steps to execute execute to the South Carolina Department of Transportation, property designated as parcel H. This is an extension of Cooper Street, and we also move to have that item D approved unanimously as well.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays, the ayes have it.
On item E, this was simply to authorize the mayor to execute a resolution to make a application for Greenbelt funds. This is to purchase approximately 26.5 acres of land on Johns Island. I think actually that the land may be in Charleston County, but if we can obtain the funding for this property, we would annex it into the city of Charleston. There were some unique aspects about this transaction if we're able to accomplish it. The sales price is $800,000, but we're only going to pay $500,000 at closing because the landowner wants to stay there for a while. So we also voted unanimously to approve for the mayor to make that application to get Greenbelt funds.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays, the ayes have it.
As to item F, we did go into executive session to have to discuss some of the issues with this. We didn't vote to approve this because we needed to have some more discussions regarding the execution of this agreement. You should have received from Gianna Shaw Johnson a real property exchange agreement, and I want to ask her to give us an update on this. I'll let her tee it up for us a little bit. This is a somewhat convoluted exchange of real property for affordable housing. It involves several parties involved in it, and you're going to need a little bit of a flow chart to follow through with this. So, Gianna, if you don't mind, please. I don't want to confuse people more than I need to on the parties that are involved with this and what this entails, but I think we've got it all worked out now, and we're ready to submit this for approval to the Ways and Means Committee and Council for final approval. So, Gianna, would you mind starting off with a little bit of a background information on this and what this really entails?
Yes, sir. And let me just say, Councilmember Shaheen, that you all approved it, but you approved it contingent upon us amending certain language within the document. And we had a deadline of this morning to work toward that goal. And I just want to say, between our internal corporation counsel and outside legal counsel and working with the nonprofit and for-profit development team, we were able to get what is in front of you today. In relation to background, this initially property exchange matter came before the Community Development Committee of City Council in relation to the Humanities Foundation and their subsidiary now, America Street Ventures, purchasing properties in the East Side community. Their goal there was to build additional affordable housing and expand their footprint. What they discovered in doing that, when they were seeking and putting properties under contract, they learned after reaching out to our planning and zoning folks that the city's preference for the properties that they were looking at were to be used, or preferably be used, for stormwater management purposes, i.e. they were looking at properties that the city preferred were not built upon. And that was based on the Dutch dialogues that the city had engaged in probably a year and a half ago now. And so with that, the Humanities Foundation, in concert with city staff, started discussing how they could take the properties that they were putting under contract and exchange properties that the city was holding that we'd received early on from the bridge mitigation process to build affordable housing, how we could enter into a contract to exchange those properties. And that's literally where that started. A month ago, you all gave first reading to a property exchange agreement, whereby it was simply the city of Charleston working with America Street Ventures to exchange 2 properties that the city owned for 5 sites that America Street Ventures owns, or what America Street Ventures had under contract. What happened was, in between second and third reading, the America Street Ventures team asked us to consider, instead of a straight property exchange, an assignment of contracts. And so it was delayed slightly because part of what our legal team wanted to make certain of is that all of the contracts that we were being asked to take an assignment on were in place. There were some other challenges that came into play that we were able to work through. However, what we presented to real estate last night had language relative to an estoppel, as well as the monetary aspects of the exchange agreement. And that is where I'm going to stop and ask Jane Stoney or Susan Herdina, who's our legal team, to explain that further to real estate and council. And I'll answer any questions afterwards. Thank you.
I don't know, is Jane on the line?
I'm here. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah. Okay. Jane, go ahead. Thank you.
So the last 2 items that Gianna flagged were in the estoppel with respect to an indemnity. We had requested that America Street Ventures and its development, or I guess developer partner, RCCBB Properties LLC. And then we also had to work through an option that is included now in the swap agreement, that if the city decided it did not want to take title to some of the parcels that are included in the swap, that instead America Street Ventures would pay over to the city cash for those parcels. So with respect to the indemnity issue, the first one that's included in the estoppel agreement, we got America Street Ventures to agree to the indemnity language so long as that indemnity survived for only 90 days after the closing. So that was the agreement that was reached. I think that gives the city enough time to hopefully discover and bring any claims. The indemnity was already limited to a material misrepresentation by ASV or RCCBB Properties LLC. So presumably any misrepresentations of that nature would come to light either at closing or shortly thereafter. With respect to the cash option, ASV and the city, we were able to reach agreement there. What we were dealing with today was whether the cash the city received would be based on the appraised value of any parcels it elected not to take title to, or whether the cash value the city received would be based on the price that ASV was going to pay to acquire those parcels. The agreement that was reached today determined that the city would receive cash in the amount of the contract price. So whatever ASV was going to pay the current owner of the property for that property, it would give the city that cash equivalent in lieu of taking title to any real property the city decided it no longer wanted. I know that's terribly convoluted, so.
It is.
It really is, and Fiona, thank you all for that explanation. So this involves several different parties to this property exchange for affordable housing, and the Dutch dialogues component fits into this, as Fiona mentioned. And she was right that we did give a tentative approval to allow the parties to sit down between yesterday afternoon and this morning to hash out the issue of taking care of the estoppel, which is good for 90 days. So I think we got it all lined up. I think we're on track. And based on that, then, Mr. Chairman, I'd move for approval of item F.
I second.
Moved and properly seconded. All in favor, say.
Mr. Chairman, Councilmember Mitchell has got his hand up. He's waving.
I'm sorry, I don't have the full screen. Councilman.
I'll help you out.
Thanks.
You muted, Councilmember Mitchell. You muted.
Ms. Johnson, could you tell the committee, I mean, the council member exactly where his properties are located?
Sure, Mayor. I'm sorry, Councilmember Mitchell. I'm
Nobody's
used to
tonight.
talking to the mayor. And we had a map, and if I can, Jennifer, I don't know if I could screen share.
You can.
Map.
Let me take down the agenda. Hold on one moment.
Just
Okay,
so that
now you
council
can.
members have the full understanding of the properties, where they're located, and
Oh, no.
Gianna, do you want me to try to pull it up?
yes, please, because I have it in PDF, but it wasn't allowing me to get to the share screen function from the PDF.
Can you see it?
There we
okay?
go.
Okay.
So if you see those properties, the ones in Jennifer, can you expand that at all? The properties in the pink or maroon, based on your color, are the ones that the city owns: America, Cooper Street. All of these properties are located in the east side. And as I mentioned, these are properties that the city secured for the purpose, or from the bridge mitigation agreement that was entered into many years ago. The goal of those properties were to build affordable housing or serve as eleemosynary purposes. And then the properties that are being considered and approved by you all under the exchange are the properties in blue. These are properties that the America Street Ventures, a subsidiary of firm associated with Humanities Foundation, is purchasing from the RCCBB organization. So that gives you a sense of where those properties are located. Quite a bit happening in that community. This would bring additional affordable senior housing to that community. And certainly there's a need for that. Does that answer your question, Councilmember Mitchell?
You muted, Councilmember Mitchell. You muted.
Okay, that'd be additional to the housing that they're proposing at the Henry P. Archer School, right?
Yes, sir. This is a different site from Archer. Archer is slightly around the corner, if you will,
Right.
from this site. So this is an addition to what is being proposed. And they're looking at going up to the 80% AMI level with the rents on this one. So from 50% on up to 80% is the original targets for this.
And did they say how many units they are proposing?
Councilmember Mitchell, I want to think close to 70, but as we all know, that'll be based on going through our design review committee and looking at any other site constraints that might exist. But that was the original thought, as I recall. Mayor, I don't know if the mayor has another thought, but I believe that's what they shared with us.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it very carefully because I want to make sure that the problems that we have with these parking in that area already, I'm just going to make sure that they have parking there, because we have a lot of problems when they're parking in that whole area around from Lee Street to Cooper Street to Nassau Street to Hanover Street, in that area.
Yes, sir.
I want to make sure that the parking is not going to be any worse than it is now, because we have to deal with the parking that we have there already. We have a lot of problems there that I have to deal with right now. And so that's what I'm looking at to make sure.
Yes, sir. And so for typically and historically on the affordable housing developments, especially in any of those that the city have supported, they have self-parked, meaning they provide their parking on site. And so if you look at any of the developments, even the one Grace Homes that Mr. Cameron and his team recently completed, those developments self-park. I know you all are being challenged in that community with parking issues. Those are not derived from those that are building the affordable product.
That's it. I just want to make sure all the council members know what's going on. Okay.
And Councilmember Mitchell, to your point, and we discussed a little bit about this yesterday, that we are slowly adding a lot of inventory to our affordable housing stock. And even with the item, I think it was item D, sort of help complete some of that as well. So I was on a conference call earlier this morning, and the amount of available units in the Charleston area is about 1/3 of what it needs to be. So getting attainable housing is a huge issue. Attainable affordable housing is a huge issue that we'll be facing. And I think this is just sort of one that we can, if we can add 50 more units to that stock, that's important for all of us to consider. And I just want to tell everybody, I appreciate the hard work that our inside and outside counsel did with this. It was a lot of back and forth going on, a lot of last minute issues taking place. But I think we've got the estoppel and identification wrapped up. That was sort of the last T to cross and I to dot. So I think we moved for approval, Mr. Chairman, and I think we need to call it for the vote this time.
Did someone second? Who seconded?
Seconded.
Okay.
Jackson.
Okay, Councilwoman Jackson. Any further discussion on this matter? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 Nays? The ayes have it.
As an item G, Mr. Chairman, there were two annexations. One's in Councilmember Brady and one's in Councilmember Appel's district. Both those petitions for annexation were approved unanimously, and I so move that this committee adopt that as well.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
All right. As an item 8, I want to recognize, Mr. Mayor, I think he's going to recuse himself from item H.
Correct. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to also recuse myself from this item. My other son, although he's not the listing agent for the proposed sale of the property, his firm, which he is now a minority owner of, has the listing. So I'd like to recuse myself on this item.
Yes.
And Mr. Chairman, let the record reflect that the mayor did recuse himself yesterday from the committee discussion on this as well. And we did go into executive session, and he was not part of the executive session either. I do want to recognize two very fine lawyers who are on this call with us. Bill Craver, who represents the Charleston School of Law, is with us, and Capers Barr. And I thought maybe Capers' son was with us. I don't see him, but Capers represents the proposed buyer of the property in question. We did go into executive session, Mr. Chairman, on this issue. The item was voted 4-0 to disapprove the motion, the application for the ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a quick claim deed. That's where it stands right now. We did direct our legal counsel to continue to have discussions with both Mr. Craver and Mr. Barr on this, to continue working on this. Since we voted it down 4-0, I would then now move to defer this to give those parties more opportunity to discuss this issue before we take any further action on it.
Any particular reason why you want to defer as opposed to voting? Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Waring.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman of the Real Estate Committee, if you would allow, I'd like to move to go into executive session to discuss some of the legal aspects of this, as we shared with real estate yesterday. The share that was with council in its entirety, accepting the mayor.
I'll second that.
Moved and properly seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Let's go into executive session.
Mr. Chairman, just for procedure, Councilman Shaheed did ask for